There we go. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's good.
Hey,
Hi, Scott. Hi, Steve. I
hey,
guess there's two of
George.
us here now, and I'm waiting to see what's going to happen on YouTube here. Anyway, tonight, let's see, I'm going to be talking about bracketing a little bit, and Steve is going to help me out because I'm going to be talking about bracketing with a Nikon. I don't have a Canon, so I can't really show you how to do it with a Canon, but yeah, so that's going to be happening this evening. I don't know who else is going to be joining us. Hopefully, a few more people. But weather like this, people get busy taking out the garbage.
Yep.
Yeah, it's beautiful weather. Anybody see the sunset last night?
Well,
No.
yeah, I was out. I was out shooting it last night.
Yeah.
If we got time, I can show you the picture.
Oh,
It
I'm
was a
sure we'll
beautiful
have time.
sunset. It
Yeah.
was a very nice sunset.
Yeah. Sure, we'll have time. So, anything new this week for anybody? Whoop, that came up a little bit too early.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Anything exciting happening with you guys?
No.
I'm waiting to get the staples out of my leg.
Oh, yeah. How's that going?
Well, my doctor's on vacation, and the doctor he's with is with him because they're husband and wife. So it's like I can't get in to see anybody to get it done, and they don't like it
Yeah.
going too long because they start to grow in, right? They get
Yeah.
embedded. So I can go back to a merge, which isn't an option. I'm not going back.
No.
But I can go to Fort Erie, has an urgent care out of their old hospital.
Yeah.
And usually the wait times are around half an hour to, or, half an hour to an hour, which is reasonable. It's just 20-minute, 25-minute drive. So I think that'll be my Friday morning to go get them taken out because I want them out. They don't hurt or anything. You don't even know they're there, but it's just I want
Yeah.
it done, right? Other than that, yeah,
Huh.
everything's going along.
Yeah. How many staples did you get? Seven?
7, yeah.
Huh.
Felt like 100, but it was only 7
Yeah,
with
I'm
no
sure it
freezing.
did.
No freezing either. Okay, see you later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So, yeah, all from a recycle bin.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and you got to be cautious. I mean, recycle bins, you don't know where they've been.
Hmm.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, exactly. But they're sharp.
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remind everybody about the 16th that Lisa Connor is going to be here showing some of her images. I've been looking at her Instagram. Man, oh man, she's taking some beautiful photographs lately. She's really been busy. Yep. So that's on the 16th. And uh, tonight I'm going to be talking about bracketing and the reason for bracketing and also how to do it with what happened here?
Yeah.
Oh, I know
That's a
what
good one.
happened.
That's a nice effect.
You like that?
Yeah, pretty
It's
cool.
it's my blur effect. I know what happened here.
Yeah.
I got to stop messing around with stuff on my desk. And
Yeah.
I've
We got
got
a
to,
glitch in the matrix there. There we go.
yeah, that's better. Okay. That actually, there's a part of the program should be taking care of anything like that, but it doesn't look like it did. There's what I call a edge masker or mask the edges. So if there's anything showing on the edges of my image here, um, it should take care of it, and it didn't. So I took care of it. by moving. Sometimes old technology is the best, or no technology at all. Just move. Okay. So we're talking about our weekly hint numbers. I can't believe I'm already like 7 hints in. Wow, that's amazing. So bracketing and auto bracketing. And the reason I split those into two is because if you're in manual mode, you have to manually bracket. Auto bracketing doesn't work. Auto bracketing only works in the auto modes on your mode dial. So keep that in mind. So bracketing simply means that you're going to take a multiple amount of shots at different exposure settings. Typically and normally, what most bracketing means is that you take one at the 0 meter setting, you take one overexposure by one stop, one underexposure by one stop. But that doesn't mean that you can't break it down into the thirds. You can if you want, but it doesn't do much, not much difference. Usually I find people will bracket one stop plus, one stop minus, or maybe 0 and one stop plus, two stops plus, and they'll bracket 5 like that to get a good variation on bracketing. So, okay, so we covered that. What are the reasons to bracket? Well, handling dynamic range. When a scene is very bright or very dark, or it has very dark parts to it, then you're not quite sure of the correct exposure that you should be looking at. So to stay safe, bracketing is one way of doing that, because then you'll have the best of the darks and the best of the lights and the one that the meter has considered to be the correct exposure. So that's the one reason. The other reason is creating HDR images, which is high dynamic range images. Now, here you can merge the bright, the balanced, and the dark photos together using Photoshop or Lightroom or a specific HDR piece of software or app to do that. And then you get the best of all three. Keep in mind that sometimes this kind of thing tends to look a little bit surrealistic, but if done right, it can be a beautiful photograph where the shadows as well as the highlights are well represented. So that's the important thing. And of course, it's insurance against bad light when you're unsure of the exposure, but that's kind of covered in the previous text that I talked about. So beyond exposure bracketing, most cameras, modern cameras, allow you to bracket white balance and as well as focus. So you can do focus bracketing, so you can do focus stacking later on. You can do white balance bracketing when you're not sure of how you should be dealing with the white balance. But I'm not going to cover those this evening, because then this thing can get into a fairly long lesson. But exposure bracketing is fairly simple to do, and I think that if we focus on that, here's some examples from my students on exposure bracketing. So the top right, of course, is overexposed, and then the middle one is normal exposure, and then the bottom left one is underexposure. So these have been properly bracketed, as with this one, overexposed, proper exposure, underexposure. So you can see that this student did a good job in bracketing it. And as I said before, typically bracketing is a one-stop issue. Now, I didn't mention that that one-stop bracket could be used shutter speed, or it could be used in aperture. That's up to you, depending on the subject matter. HDR images aren't really great if your subject is live and moving. That is a real tough thing to do. But still life, architectural photographs, scenery, those are all good subjects for doing HDR images. So, having said that, let's go through some of the steps for exposure bracketing. And what I'm going to show you is how to do this on my little mirrorless camera. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is doing exposure bracketing in manual mode. I'll get myself wrapped around here. So I'm going to use the shutter button here and see if I can, I'm going the wrong way because I'm backwards. Okay, so you can see that's my 0 point. So I would take one shot at 0, then that's one stop overexposed, and that's one stop underexposed. So that's how I would use the camera to manually bracket. Of course, on the mode dial, and you can see on the back that I'm in manual mode in order to do this. So what about auto bracketing? The camera itself has built-in auto bracketing, and I can certainly do that, but I have to change my mode dial. I'm going to change it to shutter priority because it's easier for me to turn the shutter button here. I could turn the aperture button. Like I say, you could use aperture or shutter to do bracketing, depending on what you're shooting and what you don't mind changing. If you use aperture, keep in mind your depth of field may change. Okay, if you're using shutter speed, that would probably be a safer bet than aperture because then you wouldn't have the chance of your depth of field changing and things being out of focus in the background, perhaps, on one of your subjects or one of your images. All right, so now I'm into, let's see, I've got to put it on shutter. And then I'm going to go into my menu. So I press the menu button right down here. Okay. Whoop, somebody is dropping in on us. I'm going to let them in. You think I should? Yeah, Daryl. There we go. Hi, Daryl.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. It's afternoon
Yeah.
here. It's not
Good.
a bit late.
I'm just in the middle of a lesson. That's okay. And
That's cool.
so I'm going to have to change the brightness on this thing because it's really blurring out on me. So I'm just going to get out of here, go down to tools, go into monitor brightness. Yep. And I'm going to go to -5. Let's see if that'll do it. Yeah, I think that'll work. It better work because -5 is the lowest. Okay, here we go. Back to click OK so it doesn't change on me. And then I'm going to go back to the camera menu, auto bracketing, and then once I go into auto bracketing, this is what I end up with. So I have auto bracketing, and the first, let me get a pen here, part of this menu is how many shots do I want? So you can see that the meter scale is down here. And right now, there's nothing on there. It's on 0. But if I change this, switching hands, there. And hang on. I'm not used to doing it backwards. Sorry. Okay, so you can see I'm on 0 frames right now. And if I click it over here, it goes to 3 frames. And now I'm going to be taking 3 frames. And at the bottom here, it shows me that they're going to be 1 stop apart. I can change this if I want to fractions of a stop. Or I can change it from 3 frames to 5 frames, 1 stop apart. Now notice down here on the meter scale, 3 ticks have appeared. 3 cursors have appeared at the bottom of the scale to show that there are going to be 3 photographs taken. So when I take 3 shots now, I'll just set this up. When I take the 3 shots now, I'm going to take 1 shot. Okay, these will be out of focus because I'm so close to my computer screen, but I think you'll get the idea. I've got 3 frames. And I'm going to, here we go, one more time. Just let me get this in. Okay, here we go. I'll see if I can focus. Okay, and I'll play this back for you. I've got to make sure I press the button the right way. So I'm just taking a shot of my screen here. One, two, three. So that's proper exposure. That one's over and that one's under. So you can see how it does the 3 shots for you. Now the important thing here is that once you're finished doing your bracketing, your auto bracketing, on your screen on the back, you will see that those ticks are still there on the scale, on the meter scale. And keep an eye on that because they don't disappear after you finish the bracketing. And I've done this in the past where I forgot that I did bracketing, and I come back and I take a shot of one thing, then take a shot of something else, and then and they're the wrong exposure. One is correct, but the others are wrong. And that's because I forgot to turn off the auto bracketing. So once you're finished bracketing in the auto bracketing mode, don't forget to turn it off because that'll be very disappointing for your next few shots. So that is an important point. I don't know if anybody else has had any experience with your auto bracketing or with bracketing period, but now would be a good time to kind of chime in and let me know.
Yep. I've done it
Hang
before
on.
and I've left it on. I've left it on too.
Okay.
So yeah, it screws everything up and it takes a while to figure it out. But yes, it's usually, and I usually, depending on the setting, I'll use like, you know, multiple frames per second and just use the drive and then click, 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 click. You hear it slow down,
Yeah.
and then they're there, and you can go through and check the histograms and make sure you took enough brackets and it went far enough to get everything off the
Yeah.
edges, right? Like where oh man, like if you still have stuff up against the side of the thing, you might want to bracket a little more and
Yeah.
bring it in a bit so you're not blowing stuff out to the edges. So yeah, no, it's a very handy tool, but it's not as important as it used to be when we shot slides and stuff, right?
Oh no, very important back then because
Like I learned on,
yeah.
yeah, I learned on slides, and you had to everything you shot, you had to bracket, and you didn't do full stops because a full stop and slide was a disaster. You had to do it in
Yeah.
at
Yep.
best, at the most
Yep.
you could do was a half a stop,
And you had to
right?
do it manually.
Yeah, and you
Yes.
had to do it manually. There was no auto this, that, and the other. That was even before autofocus, right? So yeah, it was just a whole
Right.
different animal.
Yeah. Okay. I have a
Yeah.
generalized question. Um, and I've never been completely clear on this, but there's a couple of logic points about bracketing. When you do, say, like a one-stop, three-shot bracket, um, I'm assuming that it changes the shutter speed. It wouldn't change the aperture because you've got to have that for all three shots the same,
Right.
unless unless you're doing a focus bracket.
That's right.
However, and it wouldn't change the ISO
No.
because Lightroom or Photoshop wouldn't like that.
It changes the shutter speed. I
Yes,
Yes.
think that I
okay.
think the
Yeah.
default in most of the times, because that's the way most people are going to do it, is shutter speed,
Right.
right?
So
Like I
make
said,
sure that
as you're
you're
taking, if you
starting
do
from a high
five,
enough. Yeah.
if you do
Yeah.
five in a row, you hear them slowing down.
Yeah. Okay.
Click, click,
Yeah.
click, 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 click,
Yeah.
click,
Yeah.
click,
Yeah.
right? And
And
then it
this is all
reviews.
tripod work, of course, or really
Usually,
highly recommended, super highly
usually,
recommended.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you know what? The
Uh,
software, if you're not using, I use for that Photomatics,
oh,
and
okay.
so it will register things if they're off a bit. It asks you, did you use a tripod or didn't you? And I've done it handheld before, and it's going to move around a little bit, but it'll pull it all in and get what you want and take the
Yeah, the
very,
Adobe ones, of course, do the same thing.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I guess the point I'm making is to make sure, especially if you're in low light, make sure that you start with a high enough shutter speed, like for your center exposure, so that when
Yeah.
it slows down or
It
speeds up,
it
you're
depends
not
on what you're
into
doing.
like, like a quarter second or something like that, like something reasonable, so you'll get
You
like
get it done before the sun comes up. Yeah.
using the focal length, rule. Like just don't let your shutter speed go below your focal length.
hmm
Yeah, or something like that.
90% of the time, it's going to be done on a tripod, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Okay, Daryl. Now that you've introduced it, could you explain it? The focal length rule?
Yeah. Focal length rule. Never shoot, especially for wildlife or anything like that. Never shoot with a focal length that, or no, pardon me, with a shutter speed that is slower than your focal length. Like I shoot, um, I shoot wildlife, with a 100 to 500 Canon, and it's mostly set at 500. So never let your shutter speed go below 1/500th of a second because, especially handheld, because
Yeah.
you won't get the sharpness that you
Yeah.
need, you know.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
longer your focal length is, the more
Faster. You
extreme,
gotta go.
more extreme the image movement is within the lens and on the sensor. It's like
Yep.
looking through binoculars. The slightest motion when you're looking through binoculars is huge out there. Same
Yep.
thing goes with what you're saying.
Yep.
So, what you should be shooting at for to be safe from camera shake is 1 over the focal length.
Ah, yes. Yes.
That's your shutter
That's it.
speed.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
One
Yeah.
over
That's it.
your
Yeah.
focal length should be
Yep.
your longest shutter speed. And people with zoom lenses tend to forget about that because they might be, shooting at a short focal length, and then they zoom out and keep the same shutter speed that they were shooting with a short focal length, and now they get some camera shake. And unfortunately, with camera shake, you sometimes you don't realize you have camera shake until you take it, put it on your computer, and then you look at it and you say, "Oh my God, look at it." Now you can see
I'm
the little
screwed up.
shake. Yep.
I'm
And
screwed up.
yep.
Yes. 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 And I have a happy announcement to make. I booked uh 3 nights in Campbell River, which is about halfway up the island on the east side, on the straight side. It's one of the largest salmon migration places in the world. And and if you want to go and photograph bears, at the fall at the salmon run on Quinsam River is the place to go. I go every year, and this time I'm taking 3 nights, 4 days, where I'm going to be down at the hatchery with a 500 millimeter lens, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Sounds like a good time.
Oh,
Anyway,
it's fun.
what
It's
I'm going to
fun.
do right now is I'm just going to bring in Steve here because I've asked Steve to give me the Canon version of auto bracketing. Manual bracketing is the same on any camera,
Yeah.
but auto bracketing, well, they're a little bit different, and sometimes they're different from model to model. So be aware of that.
Yes.
But at least you know what it is now. And when you look it up in your manual, you'll know what we're talking about and what the manual is talking about. It's so much easier to read the manual when somebody has shown you what to do. So, Steve, take it away.
Okay, George, I hope you don't mind. I actually made a video of how to do this. I did it right on the fly. I just wrapped it up about 5 minutes before I joined you here, so I'm going to.
Okay, hang on in just a second here, and you can bring that video up.
Okay, there it is.
All right, let me put it in.
So I did this for a Canon DSLR and a mirrorless camera. So just a FYI.
Is there audio with this?
There is. George, are you able to bring the crop in a little bit?
Hang on.
It's not filling up the screen properly.
Huh.
Hang on one sec, George. Hang on. Definitely different than sharing a photo.
Probably.
Try this again. For some reason, it's cropping in on something, so we might miss a couple things.
I'm trying to see if I can. No, I can't make it any bigger here.
Stand by 1 second. I think I figured it out. Okay. Okay, I'll just play it and hope for the best.
Yeah,
All right, I will be.
good. Now, for some reason, the audio is not coming through.
Steve is muted. I don't know if that makes a difference.
The audio wasn't working on the video.
Like we got like a word and a half, and then
Okay,
it
let's try
stopped.
again. All right, I will be
There.
demonstrating how to turn on automatic exposure bracketing
Okay,
on
it's working now.
mirrorless camera. The camera I'm going to be demonstrating this on is the Canon RP. I'm going to start off with telling you that you have to be in one of the creative modes, that is either manual, aperture priority, or shutter priority. This will not work in a fully automatic mode. So to get to that, we want to go to menu. We want to go all the way over here to your custom functions menu. You can get to that by either turning the wheel on the top of the camera or just use the touch screen. We are there. You can find that under exposure, hit the Q or set button to make your selection. Let's go over to option number 3 here, exposure bracketing auto cancel. I recommend you leave this enabled. What this does is it allows you to turn off the feature by simply powering the camera off and then back on again. Otherwise, if you have it disabled, you will have to manually do it. I'll show you how to shut it off both ways. I'm just going to pause it for a second. So you guys brought that up. If you accidentally leave your exposure bracketing on, if you forget to turn it off. So Canon gives you that option that all you have to do is shut the camera and that cancels that whole thing. So I'm going to continue with the video. To make your selection here, go to number 5. This gives you the option of the number of bracketed shots you want to take. Hit the Q or set button. It gives you the option of doing 3, 2, 5, or 7 shots. And just for demonstration purposes, we're going to select 3 shots. Going to go back to our menu. Now we want to go to our shooting menu and we want to go to page number 3, 2, and 3. You want to select exposure compensation, hit Q or set, and we can set our stops here. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to select 2 stops. You can change that by using the wheel on the top of the camera, or you can use the touch screen on the sides here. So once you're happy with your selection, hit Q or set, and we can fire away. Make sure you are in or I shouldn't say make sure, I recommend that you are in continuous shooting mode, because all you have to do to shoot the bracketed shot is just hit the shutter button once, hold it down, and it will take all of your shots for you. Otherwise, you'll have to manually take each individual shot by hitting the shutter button separately. So I'm going to show you how to turn this off now. So to manually do it, once again, exposure compensation, hit your cue or set button, and we want to go all the way to 0 using our wheel on the top of the camera. Once you are there, you'll see the screen now looks like this. Hit your cue or set button, and it is now turned off. And I will show you the automatic way of turning it off. So where it is turned on, as you can see there as well. So we want to simply just power the camera off, and we'll turn it back on again, and you can see it is now turned off. All right, I'm going to show you how to It's a turn on DSLR. automatic exposure bracketing on a Canon DSLR camera. The camera I'm going to be demonstrating this on is a Canon 5D Mark IV. We want to select your menu button. We want to go to the custom functions menu, which is over here. And this gives you your options here. So bracketing auto cancel, I'm going to start with. It's a little bit repetitive, but for anybody with a DSLR, it'll help. This,
Yeah, okay.
I recommend you keep this on or turn it on. What this does is it'll allow you to shut the feature off simply by powering down the camera. Otherwise, you have to manually turn it off, and I will show you how to do that. So you want to go down to number of bracketed shots. Here is your options here, 3, 2, 5, or 7 shots. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to select 5 shots, hit your set button. Now we want to go to our shooting menu, which is over here, and we want to go to page number 2, exposure compensation, hit set, and using the wheel on the top of your camera, you can select how many stops you want to do this. Once you've made your selection, hit set, and there we go. Make sure you are in continuous shooting mode. This will allow you to take your bracketed shots by simply holding down the shutter button once, and it will take all 5 of those shots. If not, you have to manually shoot all 5 of those shots. So to turn this off, hit set again under your exposure compensation menu, and we want to wind this down to 0. And there you go. It is at 0, hit set, and it is now off. Now I'm going to demonstrate that automatic feature. So to turn it off, we just power off the camera like you see here, turn it back on, hit menu again, and there you can see that it is off. And that's it.
Good. Well, thank you very much for that, Steve. I appreciate
Yep.
it. And
That reminded me of a few things. Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad you pointed out that you could go into your burst mode and just hold the shutter release down, and it'll take the 3 shots and stop, or 5, or whatever you've set it for. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only other thing that I wish that they actually had a quick disconnect button instead of powering off and powering back on again. You could just cancel it by pressing one button on the back, on the top, somewhere. And now that I've said that, I'm just wondering if you could assign. I don't think you
I
can.
think you can.
You can assign an FN
I
button.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my other mirrorless, I don't have it here. It's getting repaired. I think you can assign something there. I can look into it and let you know
Yeah.
in the future.
Okay. No, that's great.
See, I had the Z8, and there's an actual bracket button right on top. So just pushing that button takes you right to that menu. It's a speed. It's not a function button. It's a hard button, and you just push it, and it takes you right to that menu, and you can dial in. So yeah, even within the systems, different cameras do it differently, right? Easily or a little more work. Either way, I do like the function that when you power your camera down, shuts off. That's a nice. It's a nice
It,
feature.
it's actually pretty quick. It's just bang, bang, it's off.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's you figure it out pretty quick, but you feel kind of
yeah,
stupid.
yeah. I kept that very basic, George. There's other stuff you were talking about with the Nikon, like that's setting like perfect exposure or whatever the meter thinks is perfect.
Yeah.
And then your stops over that. You can adjust that. You can move all of that either left or right, over, underexposed. So
Yeah.
it can get pretty complicated. So
Well, the thing is that, and I like to keep these little hints simple because you're quite right. But then that brings in another topic called exposure compensation, where you can set up your camera. If you're not happy with the 0 point on your metering system, you can invoke your exposure compensation and offset your meter by either lighter or darker, and it'll always shoot that way.
yeah,
Okay. So, and like I say, that's again, a different chapter that we could possibly talk about. I think I already have a lesson on that in one of my other videos on YouTube. But yeah, exposure compensation is something that a lot of people overlook, and they're always trying to they zero the meter on a subject, and then they change either their shutter speed or their aperture to take it off, make it a little bit brighter all the time. They didn't realize that you can make it actually be brighter all the time automatically by offsetting that 0 point. So yeah, you can do that kind of thing too. Oh,
yeah,
there's all kinds of nifty things that you can do that we can talk about. And and the interesting thing is that there are people out there. I know this happens to me regularly with some of my classes when I get into showing them something on Photoshop. And the beauty of Photoshop and Lightroom is that if there's 6 ways of doing something, there's a half a dozen. So it's like everybody has their own favorite way of doing something, and that's true for cameras too. And there are little things, little tricks, little shortcuts that people aren't aware of, that I'm not aware of until one of you guys or somebody comes on and says, there's a better way of doing that, or there's a little trick that you can do to fool the camera, and so on and so on. It's pretty cool what you can learn. And the interesting thing is that the cameras are so sophisticated these days. I mean, they're beautiful, but they're sophisticated. I remember I was at a trade show in Toronto, and I went to I think at that time I had a Canon. I went to the Canon booth, but one of my students who was with me said, I want to know how to do this on the Canon. I know you can do it, but I want to know what this button is for and how to use it. So I went up and I talked to the guy and I said, okay, here's a Canon model so and so. How do I use this button? And the guy looked at the button and he said, you see the guy over there? He's the expert on that. And a revelation came to me and said, these guys don't know how to use the camera totally. They've compartmentalized people who are specialists in certain areas because it's complex. Now, I don't know if that's really a true thing, but it was interesting that somebody could show me better than the guy I was talking to.
yeah, I believe it. There's features on these things I don't think I know exist, and I probably never use them.
Yeah, I'm sure. And there are things that during my uh, time as a commercial industrial photographer that I really was restricted in using certain things that I was dead sure about. Um, because I couldn't go out on a job and be fumbling around looking at a manual or looking something up. No, no, no. You don't do that on a job. You better go in there knowing what the hell you're doing and to be able to work efficiently, get it done, and get out. It's kind of interesting, and that brings me to something that I do talk to students about, and that's perception of photographers. And there's all kinds of weird little things that I learned when I was younger as a photographer. When I started working with companies and their art directors and their creative people and so on. Does anybody remember a company called Agnew Surpass?
Yeah.
Shoe store.
Shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they hired me, um, and I think I worked with them for a number of years in their main head office here in Brantford. Of course, they're no longer in business, but here in Brantford, they actually had a store window setup because all of the store windows of Agnew Surpasses were set up pretty well the same way. So what they did each season, maybe a season before or more, they would set up the store window for Christmas at the end of spring. But in the factory, they'd set up the Christmas window with everything, all the banners, everything, the shoe holders, and what shoes to put where, and boots, and so on. And they'd set that all up before they shipped out all the material that they were going to use in those store windows. And I would come in with an assistant. We'd set up the camera. And at that time, I was shooting 4x5-inch film. And we'd set up the lights and we'd take the shot and I'd shoot a couple of Polaroids, make sure my lighting was on. My assistant would be metering, make sure that the exposure was nice and even across the whole window area. And then we'd load film, take the shots, and there'd be a little bit of bracketing involved because, again, safety. And we'd do the bracketing 3 or 4 times. So we had 3 or 4 similar exposures. Again, this was just one of those things that we're shooting film. And when I sent the film away, I would send one batch of film away one day, another batch of film another day, just in case something goes wrong at the lab, just in case something goes wrong at the shipping end of things. And or just in case there's a little bit of dust on the film because they were in film holders and loaded in the darkroom and so on. But anyway, we were finished like in 2 hours with the lighting set up, everything. Then I took it, and this guy, he had a glassed-in office that oversaw this part of the factory. And I went into his office and I said, "We're done. Here are the Polaroids. I just want you to check them before we start tearing things down." And this is the first time I shot for this company. And um, I remember the guy's name. I won't mention his last name, but his first name was Lloyd. Terrific guy. He was the art director. And he looked at it and he says, "Looks good to me." He said, "But you're not done." I said, "Well, what else do you want us to shoot?" He says, "No, you're not done. You finish this job in 2 hours. This is a full day job." And that's what he budgeted for it. Now, you don't get somebody saying that too often when you're working for them. I said, "Okay." Then I found out why. The board of directors were out to lunch, and when they were coming back at 1 o'clock, that's when he wanted me to shoot this. And he wanted to show that they've hired a professional photographer, so everything is going to be kosher, so to speak. And he said, when they come into the office, that's when you're going to be doing the lighting, doing the metering, and everything else. Well, really, the job was done, but now it was a dog and pony show. and I understood what he was doing. All right. And so, I mean, we played it up a little bit, you know. I would say to Les, who was my assistant, Les, can you turn that light over there about, 5 degrees to the right? And he'd go over and he'd adjust the light. And I'd look at it and I say, okay, now that light over there, I'm getting a little bit of reflection off that brass shoe holder over here. Can you get some dulling spray and give it a hit? And he'd go over, a little dulling spray. And that's all we did. I mean, the shoot was done. So I didn't care what we did with the lighting or anything else at this point. It was a show for the board of
Yeah.
directors who were looking through this glass
Yeah.
panel. Just, wow, this is great.
So
And
did you shoot with an empty camera when they came in, Jorj?
yeah, we did.
You shot with an empty camera.
Yeah, we didn't take any. Why waste the film?
Yeah, yeah.
And we, it was a show. And Lloyd was so pleased. He says, "You guys did a great job," after it was all over. And I said, "Okay." I said to myself, lesson learned. There's something about showmanship that's part of the job, especially if you're going to be billing high, they need a show. And just like one of the other things I mentioned to students, when you see a person walking around in a hospital with a stethoscope around their neck, they're probably a doctor. Guess what? I made my assistant and myself wear a handheld light meter around our neck. And there was a certain point that, we might have used it at the beginning, but that once the lighting was even, that was it. But when you walk around with a piece of equipment around your neck, it identifies who you are and what you do. And I think that that's so important when it comes to industrial commercial photography, just like the equipment. And I often tell the story about me shooting down at Niagara Falls. We were doing a video for a pizza making company. They made pizzas with stuffings in the side, brand new machine and everything else. And I think I've told this story before. But I went down for a site inspection, so I know what kind of equipment to bring in and what kind of lighting I needed. Anyway, when we finally got there, the place was really, really crowded. You couldn't even set up a decent tripod because of the limited space. So that's when we went out and rented, I think it was at that time, a red camera, video camera, and came in with that. Now, those cameras were they looked like consumer cameras almost. They weren't
Big
certainly like
bucks.
the Betacam cameras that we were shooting. So the proprietor was a little disappointed. He says, I got a camera that size. I could have done this. And I said, well, I don't think your camera and this camera are quite in the same ballpark. And wait until you see the results. And of course, the results were fantastic. I mean, the detail and everything. It was just outstanding. So, yeah, sometimes the perception somebody gets about what you do and your professionalism doesn't always depend on your professionalism as much as it does impressing them with the equipment that you have. And then there are other customers, interestingly enough, who are more interested in get in, get out. And I had one of those customers up in Cambridge, and they manufacture printing presses. I mean, these printing presses are frigging huge. They're a 4-color press with actually, so they're 5 because the 4 colors plus I forget what they call it, but it makes it look like it's got shellac on certain parts of the image. And so that was part of it. And then halfway through, it was a roll paper press. Halfway through, it turned the paper around and printed it on the other side. And at the end, it cut and folded it into sheets or booklets. And it was huge. They put this thing together in a warehouse. So they had this printing press that was ordered by, and at the time it was ordered by the United Arab Emirates. Somebody down there ordered this press, but before they ship it out, they flew up here to see and make sure it works the way they want it to work. Can you imagine that? They put it together, then they're going to strip it down again and crate it and send it.
Expensive thing.
Yeah. So what happened as I show up, I've got three. Yeah, I had three assistants plus myself, and we had rented lights from a company in uh, Toronto, Vistec, as a matter of fact. And so we showed up with all the equipment. And what happened, as soon as we showed up, we said, we're going to set up the lights and then we're going to take the shot and then we're going to tweak it and everything else. Anyway, make a long story short, we set it up. We're messing around with it. And we said, okay, we're ready to shoot. And what happened was all the technicians, all the engineers, each one of them who was on a different panel for each one of the colors, put their laptops into the cabinet, closed the cabinet, made sure that the lights that were flashing for this photograph were the correct lights to be on. Because if you show this to a professional printer, he says, man, this machine is screwed up. The wrong lights are on. So they had to make sure that it looked operational for the photograph. And they just packed everything in and they went and sat down and started having, a break, lunch. And then the manager came to me and said, how long is this going to take? And I said, it's going to take a couple of hours because we're going to have to make sure all the lighting is correct. And it was all done with electronic flash. And we had about 10 flashes all in a row with umbrellas. and when I said it's going to take a couple of hours, I thought he was going to, I think he went white. And he said, can you do it faster? I said, well, I have a couple of more people I can call in and we can do it faster, but it's going to be more expensive. He says, I don't care. He says, you see those people taking a break over there? They're engineers and technicians. Do you have any idea what I'm spending here of them sitting down? So he says, do it as fast as you can. Whatever you quoted, we'll pay that. I don't care how much it was. What I care about is you get in, you get out as fast as you can. So that's sort of the opposite of Agnew Surpass. Anyway, interesting times. Interesting times we've had. So let's see. How's our time doing? Good. I don't think anybody has made any comments. Hey, if you're on YouTube, let us know where you're from and who you are. Appreciate that. And by all means, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. I'll remind you again later on. Now, before we go any further, does anybody have anything to show us?
Scott had that sunset picture.
Oh, yeah, let's see that.
Sunset, yeah. Okay, hang on here. Yeah. There we go. You can see that.
Yep.
Wow.
So this is a part of it's a really, really old barn that the guys fixed up. There's nothing inside. It's just on his property and he didn't tear it down. He didn't want to tear it down. There was like 5 or 6 barns over the years and he's gotten rid of all of them but this one because he likes the look of it, and he changed the look of it a bit and he doesn't know what's going to become of it. They have all these vineyards around, and to the left there's even more barns, working barns and sheds. It's along the Niagara Parkway past Queenston, between Queenston and Niagara on the Lake. It's kind of one of those things where my buddy and I look out and go, you know what, it looks like it could be a good sunrise or sunset, and let's head down there. Last night, the sunset would be The actual sunset would be double the distance out of frame, past the edge of the frame, is where the sun actually was. So you get this spillover, and it moves as the year goes on. It moves until it's actually setting almost behind it. But it was a weird sunset last night, and you had the nice colors in the background, and then these clouds here were much closer, and they were drifting this way. I've tweaked it a bit, but not like a lot. But we go there quite often. This was a different. What? This was a different night. Okay, same spot. It's a parking lot
Okay.
right across the street.
Okay.
So you get lots of variations. This is what
Okay.
I've taken this out of the one I showed you, the first one.
That's
And you
really
just get different framing. We talked about bracketing. You also can look at like compositional bracketing too, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
Close in a bit, and further away, right?
And the first one, Scott, is at, go back to that one. It's at 67 millimeters. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
67. A little bit cropped off. I tighten the composition up a little bit. Right
Mhm.
outside the frame here is a fire hydrant.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of how we can frame
Yeah.
our shots easy. I don't like the barn in the center, so I put it slightly off lower left. I just like the way it looks.
Yeah.
And then when we first got there, there was a hard line here with orange on the top, but I don't like that. And once that disappears, you end up with the windows reflecting the actual sunset, which is camera right, quite a ways over. So it's just it's a neat spot. It's easy to get to. I sit on a stool in a parking lot and don't move. My buddy's standing there, and we just shoot the breeze and take pictures for about an hour. And then the owner came over, and I put the story up on Facebook. I think you may have seen it, Jorj. Um, the story that goes with this. The owner drove by and he goes, "Oh, you guys here all the time, blah blah blah." Introduced himself. We got his email. He wants some pictures, and he goes, "One of the photographers from Niagara on the Lake just drove into his property and drove to that barn and did a family session right by his barn without asking.
Huh.
Hmm.
Nice.
Just pulled in and started shooting, and he go, well, like, what are you doing? Oh, blah blah blah." And so he was a really nice guy, and he was nice about it because he could have kicked them off, but he let them finish. But he told them, don't do it again, and don't come back unless I let you come back, right? But giving the rest of everybody else a bad name. But yeah, we get some spectacular sunsets down there. So that's pretty. That was pretty. That was what I wanted to show you from last. I want to show you another one from last week. This was last Thursday or Friday morning. I forget what day it was. This we talk about bracketing. This is a focus. This one is a stacked image, about 7 or 8 images, stacked. I can't see what do I have there? F18, 13th of a second, ISO 500. And a bunch of images. And this was a single shot on a different, just a different prop.
Okay. Are these focus bracketed or are they just, or the
This one is
exposure stacked?
focus stacking, right?
Yep.
Focus stacking and Helicon focus. And this is a single shot.
Okay.
I do it both ways for insurance, to be to wrap it all up in one word. For insurance purposes, I'll try and get it in one shot because I just like the look better.
Yep.
And then this one here, when I took him off this perch and put him on this one, from a profile view, his tail started to curve towards me. The bottom of the tail is curving more towards me. So to get that in one shot it was almost impossible. But here it was laying out a little flatter. So I was able to capture it in one shot. This
Yep.
particular one, the wings are a little more angled, and the tail usually is curved out like that. But that's the way I found it. And then when I moved it, it did more of a curl towards me. So yeah, but I like this background much better than the other one. So
Huh.
that's what I've done since last week. That one and that one.
Nice work.
Same.
Very nice.
Yeah, no kidding.
This is what I like to do. This is the best thing I like to do, is go out and shoot my bugs.
Yeah.
And I think we saw the other ones from last time I showed them.
No, that's great.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of
And
detail.
one of the things that I'm really trying to promote here, and you guys are really helping to do that, and that is to show people that photography, well, it can be technical, but it can be so much fun. And not only that, it's so diverse. I mean, there's just anything is subject to being photographed, all the way from people to insects to rocks. Dave Hardcastle, for example, with his UV lights. And I know that I was talking to Steve about possibly um, showing us his telescope setup for taking photographs of, well, celestial photographs. That would be something. And he did have a
Well,
photograph on his Facebook page, I think, or Instagram. I'm not sure which now, but he was showing his
Instagram.
setup. Pardon me?
yep.
It's Instagram.
Yeah, on
Yep.
Instagram. Anyway, Steve has volunteered to come talk to us about his setup,
Yep.
and it's, as he said, it's still a learning experience for him. But just to show
Yeah.
other people, other photographers, especially young photographers, the amazing things that you can do with your camera. And, and I don't care what kind of camera you use to have fun, to take photographs, but to be able to unfold that imagination that goes along with it. I mean, yeah, the technical stuff is important because you want it to be a good looking photograph, exposure, sharpness, and so forth. But you know what? Sometimes you can break all those rules and still end up with a piece of art. And it's not the photograph that many people would like. But if you love it as the photographer, who cares? As long as you love the photography that you're doing. And the,
Yep.
it's just so diverse. It's beautiful.
Like
It's a great
in the
hobby.
case of the bug, like you talk about that, and in the case of the bugs, like there's a lot of mornings we go out looking and we don't find anything to shoot.
Yeah.
Like it's probably in and around 20 to 25% success rate, as far as finding stuff. But I'm happy just being out in the field walking around,
Yeah,
right? I've already won if I made it there,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then to get a picture, find a subject and shoot it is a bonus on top of it. And then if it turns out and everything works well, back in the day you were doing it blind with slides, much way more difficult. Not even much, way more difficult. But you didn't know for another week after you got back and put the film in whether you hit the focus right or everything else. Like it was kind of, you did tons of bracketing. That's when we get into the bracketing, because you went there, you drove all that way, you got it all set up, everything's good to go, and I'm not just going to click, got it, and walk away, pack up and go home. You're going to shoot the crap out of it, right? And you're going to bracket on both sides all over the place just to make sure you got it in that box when you get the slides back, that you got a sharp one properly exposed. Like that was huge. So yeah, it all plays into it, right?
Yep.
absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, there
Oh,
it
look at
is.
that.
That's cool. That's a whole
Yeah,
other
that's it
thing.
there.
Yep.
That's I finally broke down and I bought a astrophotography camera. So opened up my wallet again.
Yeah.
So there.
Are you gonna do the lunar eclipse tomorrow night?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah,
I
I'm
gotta
gonna be out
work.
there too. I'm going out.
Yeah, I might go to sleep early and then set my alarm and go out.
Yeah.
So I gotta work Friday morning, unfortunately.
Oh,
So
It's peak. It's going to be peak at 9 p.m. here, so it's an easy one.
yeah.
yeah, it's 12:13, I think, over here.
Yeah,
Midnight is the
yeah.
peak. So we'll see. So at least it's a Friday. I can sleep in Saturday.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that brings our evening to a conclusion, gentlemen. Thank you very much for being here. And oh, there is one more thing that I will mention. While I was, is it okay, Steve, if I mention the other project that we're going to work on?
Yep.
All right. Well, actually, there's two projects. One of them is this software that I have presenting all this also now allows me to simultaneously broadcast to Instagram, and it rearranges the images so that they fit the Instagram format. And if there are, for example, if there are two images, one where the speaker is in one image and what they're talking about is in the other, it puts it one over the other, one on top of the other in a square format. And it's pretty cool. But to be able to do that, I want to be sure that whatever format I'm actually using will accommodate that format. Because, for example, this whole width here won't show up. It'll be just this much of me. So if I'm showing something larger, then I have to make sure that it occupies this space and not all this space. So there are some considerations. I don't know exactly what they are, but I actually have to do it. And Steve is going to help me mess around with that and see if I can get it right. The other thing is that, and I'm just going, no criticism here, Steve, but if we're going to do video, we have to figure out how the video is imported into this program so that I can show the entire video. And I'm not sure. Like, let me ask you: were you using QuickTime, or what were you using to open up that video?
I think it was QuickTime. It's funny you mentioned it. I was literally just thinking about it while you were talking. I had it open full screen. I'm wondering if I had it, if it was too big, I should have
Yeah.
shrunk it a little bit,
Okay.
and that would have,
Yeah,
okay.
And
we
yeah.
learn as we go on some of this stuff, right?
Well, and
Yeah.
certainly I am, um, because there are far more professional presenters than me. But on the other hand, I'm just getting used to the software as well. But the one thing that I do want to keep kind of realistic in this whole production is that I don't want it to be too slick either. I want it to be kind of, we're going to have a chat, we're going to talk about some things. And yeah, sometimes I'll use slides and things like that. Or maybe I'll even use my teleprompter so that I'm on point. But I want to keep it relatively casual so that we don't scare the people away who are just getting into photography and think, this is a little bit too highbrow for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Beer nickel, whatever you like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's easy to um, overload beginners,
yeah, it is.
especially with the
Hell,
technology, right?
it's
You're just
easy
their
to
head
overload
explodes,
me.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I got a confession about how I'm attending these meetings here is I don't actually have the Zoom app. I just been using the link that you send me in Messenger there.
Right.
So maybe I'll try to get the app and see how things work that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. The thing is that there's something else that I'm going to try that this has, and Steve, I'm going to try it with you, is the interview um, facility that this has, where you come in to my program. You don't come in through Zoom. You come in through my program as a guest. I've never used that before, and
Okay.
I don't want to use that on a live production because I'm not sure how it works. So, rehearsal, rehearsal, rehearsal until I get it right. And it won't take long, but I just, like I said, I don't want to mess up a live broadcast by doing that. I know that Lisa Connor, who's going to be here on the 16th, uh, she wants to come in as an interview. So rather than her just talking, we're going to get together and I'm going to have a look at what her presentation is going to be. And I'm going to prepare a whole bunch of questions that I'll give to her, and then it'll be an interview. I'll be asking her questions and she'll be showing me things that answer those questions. So, should be cool. A little different. Anyway, man, we're way over time tonight. And for those of you that have stuck with me on YouTube, thank you very much. I appreciate you hanging in there and love the fact that you did. So be sure to little button down below, give me a like, and of course um, down here, click on the subscribe, and that'll help us advance this channel, hopefully. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm going to say good night. Thank you for coming and appreciate you showing me the things that you have shown me. And to our audience, thank you. Much appreciated. Good night.
Jorj, good night, everybody.
Good night.